Hello everybody, I'm Garrulous64, and this video does not have an intro because it wasn't really planned. After covering Sonic Rivals, my brain would not focus on anything that wasn't Sonic racing game related, and that's why you're watching this video now instead of Sonic Boom Shattered Crystal.
Gee, Garrulous, why didn't you just make a video about Sonic Rivals 2 instead?
Shut up, that's why. It's also been a while since I've flexed my creative muscles with some hypothetical game creation, so if you've been dying for that, you're gonna want to pay attention to this one. For as much as I enjoyed Team Sonic Racing in the game's half-a-day-long lifespan, it just didn't really sit right with me that they teased the game using the Sonic R logo. Kinda reminds me of another reveal that didn't quite live up to its expectations. I'm sensing a pattern here. I'm not about to drop into your notifications, especially if you haven't subscribed and hit that bell, you should totally do that, and tell you that Sonic R was the pinnacle of Sonic racing games, because it really isn't. I'd either give that to Riders or Transformed, but when the entire point of your franchise is that the characters run fast, why is it that all of the on-foot racing games are weaker experiences than generic kart racer clone 54 over there? My take on that is that innovation is hard, and we've all seen what happens when Sega tries new things. Sometimes they work, and sometimes they really don't work. But what I do admire is that they keep trying, except when it comes to their racing games, for whatever reason. While it's not exactly what I want for this series in particular, the Riders games are pretty solid, and more importantly, people liked them a lot until the Kinect came along and was like,
Sonic pulls off a hydrant! It's a dolphin welcoming committee! Here comes the tag team section, give your friend a big ol' hug!
regardless if it was Free Rider's fault or not, they had something there, but tossed it out in favor of a more traditional formula. Today I want to look at a ton of different ways they could pull together aspects of games from all over their catalog and make a racing game that could actually celebrate Sonic's history, not unlike what Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel did for its own series. So my vision gets a little bit complex, so I'm gonna ask that you pay attention very closely, okay? I will take 400 copies! Here's a little blueprint for you before we get into the real meat and potatoes. An on-foot racing game utilizing boost gameplay and level design with a roster along the likes of what we saw in Sonic Runners or Sonic Speed Battle. We'll also throw in a little story as well because I know you guys like that kind of thing. The biggest thing standing between us and a game like this seems to be Sonic Team's insistence that no one can race Sonic on foot and win, like he won't let them because he hates fun, I guess. I can't tell if they were serious about that being the reason or not, but if they are, may I direct you to Sonic Rivals, Sonic Speed Battle, and, bit of a surprise appearance, Sonic Labyrinth. The first two there show us that it's not only possible for these guys to race on foot, but Sonic also gets quite a run for his money. You see, there's a thing we can all utilize called suspension of disbelief, which basically means we know something doesn't make sense, but we could ignore it for the sake of enjoying something. Such as, you know, the entire Sonic series. Hedgehog is not that fast, Fox does not fly, Big Emerald does not govern the universe, but we're all okay with that, right? Sonic Team uses this kind of thing a lot because they don't like explaining anything, such as the Phantom Ruby. Sure, we all kind of had questions about how it worked, but at the end of the day, for the most part, we just let them do whatever they wanted with it because we wanted to have a good time. And we did in fact have a good time with at least one of the games where they used the Ruby. I will let you decide which game I'm talking about. If we can't work with suspension of disbelief though, you know what we could work with? Like an actual explained mechanic. I mentioned Sonic Labyrinth earlier, and the main plot of that game involved Eggman altering Sonic's speed by stealing his shoes. So if that worked back then, I guess we could say either Sonic is slower in this game, allowing people to keep up with him, but he would still feel pretty much the same, because no one wants to race at the Sonic equivalent of 50cc. Or perhaps some character could just be like, golly gee everyone, I sure did invent these permanent speed shoes for us to all wear, how about we have a race? I'm being useful, problem solved. All the other characters can control more like Sonic and no one needs to bat an eyelash. Sure, it was weird seeing Knuckles and Silver do the homing attack in Rivals, but isn't it more fun that way? Speaking of characters though, here is a rough list of who I think should be included. Yes, I know that is almost everybody who matters, and also the Deadly Six, but you know, it's a spin-off, so maybe that's the time where you use your entire roster because it's supposed to be fan-servicey. And as long as some of the zanier character choices aren't involved with the story, sure thing, add Chaos, because no one will have to question why he's not in the Master Emerald. Add Zavok, even though I feel like the Zeddy died in Lost World. Gamma? Yeah, he's here too, because he deserves to be. We're not just going to exclude a character that has no business driving and replace them with 4 other characters that might not even be sentient, therefore having even less reason to drive anything other than Sonic Adventure 3 sales, of course. I mean, who amongst us was disappointed that their favorite character wasn't in Team Sonic Racing? I mean, I didn't have that problem because there he is. But you shouldn't have to feel like that when some of the other Sonic spin-offs have rosters that look like this. Just give the people what they want. Characters, cool alt skins, the whole 9 yards. And since we aren't designing a free-to-play game here, unlocking character alts could be left up to completing challenges, you know, the way things used to be before microtransactions plunged us into a new dark age of gaming. I'll admit that because of this video, I've really gotten back into speed battle, but some of the stuff they want you to pay for is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, it must be working though, since they're just calling it Sonic Forces now. I don't even know if Sega wants to remember the console version at this point. Back on the control side of thing though, I'd be perfectly fine with every character controlling like Sonic, and variety mainly being tied to the aesthetics, sort of like CTR turned the game into, with its like swapping out core system, so any character can be a speed character. And Speed Battle also does this. You can be pretty much any character and they control exactly the same, it's just their special moves are different. But if people really wanted it, I mean, maybe you could just throw character types in there, you can have the core gameplay remain as close to Sonic style as possible, but like, you take Runner's approach and have a few characters that have like extra jumps, or they can take certain power shortcuts, and you know, maybe there's some drawbacks, like if you do that it leaves like the pathway open for other people to follow you, or maybe the jumps thing, it like really decreases your speed, but I think it could work. I also can't decide between having courses that loop, like a regular race course, or courses that you need to just make it to the end of, sort of like they do in Rivals. I guess each idea comes with its own strengths and weaknesses, so maybe we could just go for sort of a combination of both? Think of Transformed for a second. That game has looping courses, but some of them change their layout after you reach certain laps. Personally, I feel like laps gives the player a better chance of catching up to those in front of them, and that doubles as a way to not add forced stopping points for whoever's in first place like Rivals does. I think keeping it limited to skill helping you catch up would probably be the most fun experience, but also, I mean, what's a racing game without power-ups, right? You're probably not gonna like this, but I think throwing in, like, the wisps or something could help level the playing field a little bit. Like, the farther back you are, the better wisps you get, sort of like Mario Kart. And I know you don't like wisps. I know a majority of people don't like them, but I gotta be real, they are perfect for a racing game's power-ups. Like, TSR at least did that right. As for the modes included in the game, obviously there'd be local multiplayer races, online races, a challenge mode of some kind that yields rewards that could range from cosmetics to new characters to play as, and of course, there'd also be a campaign mode, which we should talk about now since the story is probably something you've been curious about since the video began. Now this might be a little bit weird, but for this hypothetical story, I was thinking of actually reviving a dead rewrite that I never finished way back in the day. See, I was taking TSR's plot and turning it into something that actually had plot, but I was playing the game and I got so bored that eventually the writing ended up being boring too, so I was like, alright, well, I'm gonna stop. So for all intents and purposes, let's just say that this hypothetical game is the one we got instead of TSR. Just use that good old suspension of disbelief we were talking about before, and you're golden. We start out with Sonic and the gang all receiving an invitation to a race from Dr. Eggman. All the main characters amass in the specified location, expecting a plot of some kind to unfold, when Eggman arrives with Orbot, Cubot, and Metal Sonic, confused as to why they're asking him about a race when Eggman asserts that they were the ones who summoned him to that location for the same purpose. Sonic and Eggman exchange notes and begin to read what the other received, but Tails points out that the sky is suddenly darkened. Someone's using the Dragon Balls, oh man. The world around them begins to shake as the section of ground they've been standing on lifts into the air and shoots upwards, a large glass dome appearing around it as they leave the planet's atmosphere. Sonic's gang approaches Eggman, thinking that he tricked them, but a transmission begins playing on the side of the dome, showing a strange-looking tanuki creature wearing a crown. This is Dodonpa, but he's not really as nice as you might remember him being. In my continuity here, he's deciding to kidnap as many capable individuals as possible to take place in races that supposedly will offer both entertainment for his people and also the power they need to keep their civilization running amidst an energy crisis. When the group finally arrives in his world, Dr. Eggman alludes to the fact that Sonic will be the only one that wins every race, which makes Metal Sonic tap his foot angrily behind him. Dodonpa then grants each character special shoes he invented that allows them to travel at speeds comparable to Sonic. But the trade-off is that they're also hooked up to a tracking device, meaning escape would be impossible as they can just be deactivated if he deems them to be doing something against his orders. Sonic's shoes are also switched out with these, effectively nerfing his natural speed as the shoes can also slow you down. He'd also slap like a device on Eggman's Eggmobile, so him, Orbot, and Cubot are not going to be running around on the ground because it'd just be ridiculous. Come on, I mean look at him right there. You can't do that. With this new challenge ahead of them, the gang has no choice but to go along with Dodonpah's plot while they figure out a way to escape. Throughout the story, they'd find out that these are elimination races, so each time someone displays inadequacy, they get dropped from the bracket and then they're dropped into Dodonpah's dungeon. That character is then replaced with a doll version of themselves, Tails being the first one to go, bringing back the Tails doll, because again, they teased TSR with the Sonic R logo, so why not have some callbacks to that game? Only seems fair, right? Eventually, it would just be Sonic and Eggman left, the age-old battle, and of course Sonic would win. He'd have the chance to become some famous fake hero figure on Dodonpah's planet, but he chooses instead to fight Dodonpah, utilizing the Chaos Emeralds for one final race. And then he wins, of course, frees his friends, and it also ends up saving Dodonpah's planet, because in the meantime, over the course of the plot, they managed to create more than enough reserve power for them to sustain themselves. Especially with Super Sonic racing around whatever race course they were on, because I mean, imagine that, like he probably gives off a lot of power, right? Tails and Eggman would then give them some pointers on creating other methods of energy before the entire gang is sent back to their home planet, and that's the end of the game. It's not the deepest plot in the world, but it's fun to have some stakes going on, right? Like, unlike the actual TSR, because geez, what the heck happened there? This also means you could probably have little, like, doll alts for every single one of the characters. I think that'd just be a nice little touch to throw in there. And the campaign wouldn't just be races either. It would also include mini challenges, sort of like how TSR did it, except less boring things and more challenge races, where maybe you'd be restricted from doing certain things, or you have to do a certain amount of things every race, like you have to get enough drift boosts or collect a certain amount of rings throughout the whole thing. It'd also be cool to have some hub worlds where you can just walk around and talk to characters, take on side quests, and replay missions to earn more rings and get better times for leaderboards and all that. I don't know, I just really like adding hub worlds to games. It makes it feel more alive, you know? And that's pretty much all the ideas I had up in the noggin for this hypothetical racing game. I know I didn't go too in-depth with, like, every single point of it because, you know, I'd be here forever, and also it's really hard to describe how a racing game would play. You just kind of have to, like, do it. I know it's also just kind of absorbing a million other different things, but I mean, like, all of the pieces of the puzzle are already here. All you gotta do is, like, see how they fit together, right? And speaking of that, if you've got ideas for your ideal Sonic racing game, please go down into the comments and let me know what you would do, and please write as much as you want, because from experience I can tell you that this really gets your mind racing. Hey, thanks for watching this filler video that I really wanted to make, but also was very handy in, you know, filling in a gap that I had no video for. If you made it to the end of the video, please go ahead and let me know down in the comments, in addition to telling me about your ideal racing game. And as always, if you like this video and you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe, click the bell, follow my Twitter, and join the Discord to keep up with more Sonic and other things that aren't Sonic, because I do a lot of things. I'd also like to give a huge thank you to my current supporters, who are Kaido the Samurai, Danny Dauber, Mike TGC, Chaotic Mercenary, James the Demon YT, Roscoe 13, Crazy Sean DX, Dylan Plays, Cosmic Mushroom, Raiden Still Plays, Chaos, Ty Little Tech Guy, Jaded Indolent, Jeremy, Lucas the Tall Man, Mega Trafficone, Crystal, and everyone else who's supporting me in the $1 tier. Remember, even $1 helps because that adds up over time. But anyway, if you would like to become a supporter yourself and get shoutouts and access to bloopers and stuff, you can either check out my Patreon at the card up there, or click the join button below the video. Seriously, like for $1, how could you go wrong, right? But anyway, that's all I got for you today. Next week, more things, and I will see you guys next time.